I help you? May I help you? I'm getting into that club. Are you getting in? May we help you? Leave alone. Welcome to the Quilt Club.
The 2000s was filled with shows, games, and movies that left many people with trauma. Whether it was short-lived or you carried it with you into your teenage years and maybe even adulthood, everyone has had something that's haunted them. For me, I've had many, and I want to eventually talk about all of them. But let's start with a show that horrified many. This is Courage the Cowardly Dog, a series made by John R. Dilworth starting in 1999 and lasting all the way up to 2002, with a total of 4 seasons. This show is labeled as a horror comedy, but Kid Auditz would highly disagree, as I would always try to watch it, and then an episode would have a moment like this. And that would shock me all the way back to Nicktoons or chilling in the backyard with Phineas and Ferb. But there was one episode that haunted me for years, that being Quilt Club. Quilt Club is an episode from season 3 of the Courage series, airing in August of 2002. It was written by Bill Marsili, hopefully I got that name correct, and directed by the previous mentioned John R. Dilworth. The plot follows the standards for an episode in the series, where it opens in the local nowhere antique quilt shop. As Muriel and Courage are shopping, Muriel notices a sign advertising the shop's club. The duo are then approached by the two-headed shopkeep that introduces themselves as Eliza and Eliza Stitch, also known as
the Stitch Sisters.
Muriel decides to then ask them about the store's club, but the sisters ask to see some of her work to see if she's club material, which she then promptly pulls out a piece of her memory quilt she's been working on, which is quickly denied, not by the Stitch Sisters, but by the quilt itself, teasing to a key point needed to join this ever so elusive club, which we will be getting into. But first, if you're liking the video so far, go ahead and drop a sub. But first, what they show after this interaction is the decline of Muriel as she is obsessing over getting into this club. And holy Jesus, does she really want in. First, she quilts a whole chair, then a car cover, and then ending off with a whole football field which a team plays on. But finally, after all of that work, the quilt, not the sisters, determines that Muriel is worthy of joining, but only after these lines are uttered.
More than you belong with Eustace? Who?
And ring the bell. There it is. There it is. You have to forget about your connections to join this club. But before Muriel can say that she's a part of this club, she has to go through an initiation to truly get in, which is now scheduled to be tonight. Skipping forward to later at night, the club arrives and is revealed to only be the Stitch Sisters and the quilt in hand. It's a little odd, especially for it being a club in quotation marks, but we can't worry about that. All Muriel has to do now is quilt a symbol drawn onto the wall into this quilt, and she is finally in the club. So Courage, seeing this, obviously is a little skeptical and goes full Phoenix Wright, takes a photo and uploads it into his computer. What is next revealed is the symbol drawn on the wall is a sign of everlasting life, and the two sisters have been using this to sustain themselves since the time of prehistoric man. Courage, finding this out, obviously freaks and goes downstairs to warn Muriel, but sadly he's just a little too late, as by quilting that patch, Muriel has actually been physically turned into a fabric, and it gets sewn right into the quilt, all while they chant, Without any explanation, all Courage needs to do is help Muriel remember the one she loves, and that will tear the quilt's seams and release all of the souls trapped within it. So, by using his best Solid Snake impression, he surprises and restrains the Stitch Sisters using the yarn from the quilt he was playing with earlier. Then, by sewing the patch of baby Eustace along with a huge patch of his fur, Muriel starts to remember and breaks herself and everyone else trapped in the quilt free. And just like that, the curse is broken. The Stitch Sisters are eternally sealed, and the day is saved again, all thanks to Courage. And we can also move on to Chapter 2. Now, why did I find this episode in particular so scary? Personally, I think it's because of two aspects. One is the aspect of their fictional world, and two is the things that were happening in real life at the time that influenced and intensified the fear. So, let's start with the episode itself. Personally, as an adult, I now think that this is one of the more tame episodes of the show. After rewatching it, the scares aren't really as impactful as some of the other ones like King Ramsey and Freaky Fred. But while there's not that many traditional scares, it does really well with atmospheric horror. This episode is all about the atmosphere. Nowhere is already a creepy area that can be very off-putting at times, but it's typically always sunny during the day and you get clear skies at night. But this time, there's a constant, dreary, looming fog across the whole area that gives the episode almost a gray, somber shade that layers over almost every ounce of color. And along with them also choosing to use a more subtle music, it just stacks with the atmosphere, keeping it at a constant off-putting feeling and intensifying it at times. But that's also not the only thing that the writers did. They took the characters, their status quos, and mixed it all around, taking the familiar characters that we've grown up with and made them act different than usual. For example, Eustace typically is the main one causing the trouble, but for 90% of this episode, he is sick and bedbound, only appearing 7 times this whole episode, which is definitely odd to put a main character to the side, even with it being necessary for the plot in the episode. But the main change is to Muriel. The descent and downfall of Muriel in this episode is genuinely scary to see. This sweet, caring old woman turns into a figurative monster, fighting just to belong in a club that is just a phony scam to trap her. And then, for her to slowly get angrier and upset at every rejection, and forgetting about the people she loves, it's heartbreaking, and a super sad depiction of the character that we have watched for so long. But that sadness also turns into a sense of fear when you compare it to experiences or symptoms that you or people may have had in real life, whether it's the loss of a loved one, or them battling with a disease that changes them as a whole. And personally, I think that's just why this episode scared me as a kid so much, because I was taking aspects from the show and mixing it with the grief and fear from experiences that has happened to me in real life, and that's what led me to having fears about quilts and the endless nightmares of my family members getting taken one by one from me by the Stitch Sisters. It was irrational, sure, but it was all too real to kid Auditz. So, after all we've looked at, does this episode still scare me? No, but that's okay. It was just a fun experience looking back at this episode that has lingered with me for so long. Now, overall, what do I think about this episode? In my opinion, it's definitely one of the weakest episodes in the show. The atmosphere is great and carries the episode, but that doesn't really push it to the level of the other episodes I personally remember, like the Duck Brothers or the infamous King Ramsey. And for that, I just gotta rate it a 6.8 out of 10. Thank you everyone so much for watching this video. This has haunted me for so long. I've delayed this video and pushed it back because I wasn't enjoying how it worked out, but I got it out. And I can finally start working on longer form content that actually fits to the style that I do with my shorts and stuff. I will still experiment with other types of videos, but it's gonna mainly stick to retro form content. I just like talking about retro games. Anyways, see you guys next time with my next upload, which should be building my ultimate DSi. If you did like this video, comment and subscribe, and I'll see you guys later.